Vice President J.D. Vance has issued a strong response following an interview involving White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, in which she was quoted as describing President Trump as having an alcoholic personality, labeling Vance a conspiracy theorist, calling Russell Vought a right-wing zealot, and criticizing Elon Musk's role in dismantling USAID. In reaction, J.D. Vance fired back at a reporter who asked him about Wiles' alleged remarks that he is a conspiracy theorist. Vance responded by listing several so-called conspiracy theories he says he believes in, stating, "I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true." He added, "I believed in the so-called crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds at the height of the COVID pandemic."
Vice President Jacob Bogage from the Washington Post, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you.
Unfortunately, I have to ask a bit of an off-topic question from affordability because news events do intervene, and that is the interviews that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles gave to Vanity Fair, in which she's quoted as referring to you as, excuse me, and again, not my words, sir, but a conspiracy theorist of a decade, and described your transformation from someone who once opposed President Trump to now his vice president as an act of political expediency. And I'd like to give you the chance to respond to that, sir.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it. But conspiracy theorist, sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. Yeah. And by the way, Susie and I have joked in private and in public about that for a long time. For example, I believed in the crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds at the height of the COVID pandemic, that we should actually let them develop some language skills. You know, I believed in this crazy conspiracy theory that the media and the government were covering up the fact that Joe Biden was clearly unable to do the job. And I believed in the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden was trying to throw his political opponents in jail rather than win an argument against his political opponents. So, at least on some of these conspiracy theories, it turns out that a conspiracy theory is just something that was true 6 months before the media admitted it. And that's my understanding. Now, look, I do want to say something about Susie, though, because, again, having not read this article, Susie is a person I've come to know very, very well. And, you know, a lot of you probably ask yourself, what is it like behind the scenes? What's going on actually behind the scenes of the Trump administration? And I'll tell you, the president is exactly in private who he is in public. Like, I'll tell you a little story. Maybe a week or so ago, I walk into the Oval Office and Marco and I are sitting there talking with the president about something. He says, "Stop." And he looks at our shoes and says, "You guys have terrible shoes." So he goes and gets a shoe catalog. Now remember, this is the Christmas season, so the president's got some holiday cheer. He goes and gets a shoe catalog and gets his favorite shoes and orders like 4 pairs of shoes for me and 4 pairs of shoes for Marco, because he's like, you know, we need our vice president or secretary of state to look their very best. And, you know, then we went back to talking about whatever major, international issue we were talking about. Again, he is exactly in private who he is in public. That's not true of most people in Washington, D.C. It's not. And I've seen so many people who will say one thing to the president's face, Democrats and Republicans, and then will do the exact opposite behind the scenes. You know why I really, you know what they are, and you know why I really love Susie Wiles? Because Susie is who she is in the president's presence. She's the same exact person when the president isn't around. I've never seen Susie Wiles say something to the president and then go and counteract him or subvert his will behind the scenes. And that's what you want in a staffer. Because as much as I love Susie, the American people didn't elect any staffer. They elected the President of the United States. And what you want in a staffer is a person who understands they are there to effectuate the will of the American people and they're there to follow the orders of the duly elected Commander-in-Chief of the United States. And Susie Wiles, we have our disagreements. We agree on much more than we disagree, but I've never seen her be disloyal to the President of the United States, and that makes her the best White House Chief of Staff that I think the President could ask for.
Meanwhile, Susie Wiles also responded to the Vanity Fair interview, calling it an out-of-context hit piece. Posting on X, she wrote, "The article published early this morning is a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. Significant context was disregarded, and much of what I, and others, said about the team and the president was left out of the story. I assume after reading it that this was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. The truth is, the Trump White House has already accomplished more in 11 months than any other president has accomplished in 8 years, and that is due to the unmatched leadership and vision of President Trump, for whom I have been honored to work for the better part of a decade. None of this will stop our relentless pursuit of making America great again."
Okay, day 337. Look, you guys get back-to-back ones apparently this week because there has been some crazy developments in the White House, particularly with Susie Wiles. Now, if you don't know who Susie Wiles is, she is the chief of staff. She probably is, after Trump, one of the most important people in the administration. She pretty much keeps everybody in line. Like, she is, like, let's just say that, Trump is the chief, right? He's a chief. He's the head. And she is the neck and arms, is how I would think of it, because she tries to guide him in the direction that he needs to go, which, our neck, we move it to move our head. And she also is his arms, as in the fact that, and his hands and his arms, in that fact that she has her hands in everything. She reaches over here and pulls the vice president and being like, calm down. Like, she is what I would think would be one of the most powerful people after Trump, okay? She's his chief of staff. And this chief of staff is a person that should, hold the secrets, right? She knows everything, literally everything. And she did a interview with Vanity Fair, where she has a lot to say, which is so unusual, especially while the administration is still administrating, right? Maybe a chief of staff could possibly, and I don't really know of any, I haven't looked it up, a chief of staff could write a tell-all book after administration. But this is quite literally during the administration. And she says that Trump, quote, has an alcoholic personality. Why this is crazy is because, first of all, people say that Trump doesn't drink, right? He even says he doesn't drink alcohol. But Susie Wiles' father was an alcoholic. So to describe somebody as somebody who has an alcoholic personality as the daughter of an alcoholic says a lot, okay? She also says that J.D. Vance has basically been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. And the reason why he went from a no Trump guy to now, bending the knee to Trump is just all political. We didn't know that one, right? She also says that Voight is basically a right-wing absolute zealot. Bondi, who I have read that Wiles and Bondi are friends, have been friends. She said that basically Bondi totally, quote, whiffed the handling of the Epstein files. She said that she told the president, Trump, that she thinks that he should not have pardoned the January 6th rioters who are violent criminals, right? She said she told him no, that she didn't think that he should do that. He did it anyways, right? She said, Susie Wiles said that the reason for this whole Venezuela attack is 100%. Okay, she didn't say 100%, but she says it has always been about regime change. Quote, I wrote this quote down because I really wanted to get this correct. Quote, he wants to continue to blow boats up until Maduro cries uncle. I mean, she also said that as far as like retribution and getting back at his political opponents, she gave him 90 days. 90 days. I'll give you 90 days to do this and that, and after this, it's dropped. It's done. She said that the Letitia James persecution and prosecution is retribution. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It is all about retribution with Letitia James. And then finally, I mean, just you go read this. It's Vanity Fair. But these are just some of the things that I found astonishing. Right? There's a ton of stuff, but we don't need a 30-minute video. So you can go read it. But one of the quotes that I found particularly absolutely insane was this one. And I also wrote this one down because I did not want to mess it up. Quote, she also said that, quote, Trump governs with a view that there's nothing he can't do. This is Susie Wiles' quote, the chief of staff. And that's all you really need to know. He governs with the view that there is absolutely nothing he can't do.